Each and every one of these 10 RV camper camping tips and tricks are so useful, they should be mandatory, especially for RV newbies, because they're going to help you avoid making some of the biggest, most common mistakes. Hi, I'm Randy, and every Thursday I help you make big memories in small campers. And tip number 1 is have checklists. Hitching up your camper and setting up your campsite checklist are an RV newbie's best friend. For safety reasons, it's important that you hitch up your camper correctly. And having checklists is kind of like having an experienced camper with you, looking over your shoulder and making sure that you do everything in the correct order and you don't forget to do something that's really important. I created my own checklist and I keep them in my tow vehicle's glove compartment, so I always have them with me. If you'd like to use the same checklist that I created, or you just want to download my checklist as a starting point for you to create your very own, I'll leave a link to these free checklists in the video description below. Tip number 2, always have a NOAA weather radio in your camper. If bad weather is coming your way, you need to know about it.
Protection moved to an interior room.
Trust me, getting caught up in high winds when you're in an RV camper can really be scary. So a NOAA radio will sound an alert when bad weather is coming, so we can always be prepared. But here's the best thing about a NOAA weather radio is that you don't have to have a cell signal or be connected to Wi-Fi to get these weather alerts. Every RV camper needs to keep a NOAA weather radio in their camper. The NOAA weather radio that I use also has a hand crank. This hand crank will charge your NOAA radio, and this feature is really convenient because it allows you to charge your NOAA weather radio in case it's not charged when you need to use it. And in case the electricity is down during a storm or you're boondocking and you don't have electric hookups. If you want to buy the NOAA weather radio that I use, I'll leave my Amazon affiliate link to it in the video description below. Tip number 3, always plan ahead. Yes, we always need to plan ahead to make our campsite reservations, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about planning ahead for the things that you want to do when you're camping. We all have our favorite things that we love to do when we're camping, and mine is hiking, and especially hiking to waterfalls. So when I'm thinking about where I want to camp, and before I head out, I always research the area I'm going to look for nearby hiking trails and waterfalls. I think I have FOMO, the fear of missing out, when it comes to things like this. But by taking the time to research this ahead of time, I always know what my best options are, and I always have a great things to do plan. Tip number 4, always have plenty of disposable gloves on hand. Every time you go to empty your tanks, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have disposable gloves handy. So you wanna make sure that you always have enough of these on hand. I can't imagine pulling up to the dump station to empty my tank and realizing that I ran out of disposable gloves. I don't think that I have to go into more details about this one. This tip also goes hand in hand with tip number 10, which is another goodie. Tip number 5, download maps ahead of time if you don't think you're gonna have cell service. I like to do more remote camping, and even at some of the more popular campgrounds that I've camped at, I haven't been able to get a good cell signal. So I can't just pull up my map app on my phone to get directions to a hiking trail or to a gas station. So if I know or I suspect that I may not have good cell service where I'm going, I always download Google Maps ahead of time. If you want more information about how exactly to go about doing this, I did a previous video that tells you everything you need to know step by step, and I'll leave a link to that video also in the video description below. Tip number 6, always do an inside RV camper walk around before you leave your campsite. After you're all packed up and you're ready to go, before you leave, take 1 or 2 minutes to double check that all your RV cabinets and drawers are secured and closed. make sure your refrigerator is turned off. If you have a dining table that can move around when you're traveling down the road, make sure that you secure it so it doesn't scuff up your floors when you're traveling down the road. And just take time to make sure that everything's in place. Taking just a minute or two to do this can save you a lot of headaches. Tip number 7, always do an outside RV camper walk around inspection every time you take off. Just like doing an inside inspection, it's equally important that you always do an outside inspection as well. Look at your ceiling fan if you've got one and make sure that if it's got a cover, that the cover is actually closed, and double check to make sure all the windows are secured and closed. It's really important just to get familiar with how things look. So if something looks out of place, you can recognize it. For example, are your tires inflated? Or does one of your tires look like it might need some air? But here's something that I learned from my RV driving inspector. He told me that sometimes people just like to mess with us. So it's really important that we always do an outside camper walk around inspection anytime that we leave our campers unattended. For example, if we stop to eat at a restaurant or maybe a grocery store. You just never know when someone might come along and remove your safety pin from your weight distribution bars or unplug your 7-way connector. There's many things that somebody could do in less than a minute if they wanted to that would cause us to be unsafe when we're driving down the road. So just to be on the safe side, make sure you're familiar with how everything should look, and then just take a minute or two and always do a walk around your camper and your tow vehicle before you head out on down the road. Tip number 8, always keep your RV refrigerator door open or ajar when you're not using it. I found out why this is important the hard way. Because after we turn our RV refrigerators off, all that coldness that's inside the refrigerator turns to moisture. And moisture without air ventilation causes mold. Yep, when you have mold in your refrigerator, it can get really messy and it's not fun to clean up. I've always just flinged my RV door refrigerator open and that's worked for me. But you can also buy something like this bar that has suction cups on the ends to prop open and keep your refrigerator door open. Another option would be to make sure that your refrigerator isn't cold anymore and then wipe it down so that you are wiping and removing all the moisture before you shut the door. Tip number 9, close your RV refrigerator door before you take off. Of course, you don't want to be traveling down the road with an open RV refrigerator door because this could cause it to break. So always just make sure the door is closed before you take off. Tip number 10, make sure that you have all of the RV camping must-have necessities. I don't believe in buying a lot of stuff for your camper before you've taken a few trips so that you know what are the things that you're going to use so that you don't end up buying things that are unnecessary or that you're never going to use. But there are a few RV camping must-haves that every RV camper needs. Things like a sewer hose to empty your tanks, a power cord so that you can connect your camper to electric hookups, and wheel chocks so that you can secure your camper in place. If you want a full list of all of the RV must-haves, click here to watch this video now. It tells you everything that you need so you don't end up buying things that you don't need. I can't wait to see you over in this video next, and of course, as always, I can't wait to see you next Thursday. Now that's a wrap.